We're going to call this meeting to order now. It is 7:10 p.m. on May 11th, and this is a public meeting of the City of Portland Police Accountability Commission. If the Spanish language interpreter, Sasha, could please give the information on Spanish language interpretation, that would be wonderful.
Esta junta es una junta pública sujeta a las leyes del Estado de Oregon y las reglas administrativas de la ciudad de Portland y será grabada. Habrá interpretación al español disponible. Para poder accesar esta función, usted debe buscar el icono del globo en sus controles y luego apretar interpretación y luego español. Puede apretar el audio para que escuchar solamente español. Gracias.
Thank you so very much. The city also offers ASL interpretation, which will be provided by Aaron and Ophelia. Please, when they arrive, please pin their video feed to see their interpretation throughout the meeting. The closed captioning is turned on in Zoom as another means of assistance. But please note, this is an automatic captioning service and is not always accurate. The city supports access to meetings of the Police Accountability Commission and can provide other language support as well. Please email in advance of future public meetings, either as a response to a public meeting notice or directly to policeaccountability@portlandoregon.gov to ask for other assistance, including interpretation into other languages. This meeting is a public meeting subject to the City of Portland Administrative Code and Oregon state law and is being recorded. For this meeting, the chat function is enabled for commission members to communicate with each other. Members of the public will be able to ask questions using the Zoom's Q&A feature. As the commissioners are presenting and are discussing things, if attendees have questions, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A. We hope to use this feature to help guide our conversations during the meeting and future meetings and agenda topics. We'd like to be clear that not all questions will be answered during the meeting, but if answered, both the question and the answer will be visible to you and will become part of the meeting record. To access this feature, click on the Q&A icon in the middle of your screen. Now, I would like to turn the meeting over to co-chair Tim for the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Dr. Moses. The PAC uses the land acknowledgement on display at City Hall. We acknowledge that the rivers, lakes, streams, and lands of the Lower Willamette River rest upon the occupied territories of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes. We recognize the many villages, traditions, cultures, and relationships that existed along the river since time immemorial. We recognize these tribes stewarded the lands and rivers since time immemorial for future generations. We recognize and undertake responsibility for the destruction of the river and land, of traditional food sources, sacred places, and multifaceted ways of life. We acknowledge the economic and social values that enabled the harm to the river, including systemic racism, classism, and other systems of oppression that perpetuated harm against Black, Indigenous, and immigrant communities along the river. With this acknowledgement, we commit to honoring and learning from the past and working towards a more equitable and sustainable future for the Lower Willamette River. We commit to seeking solutions that acknowledge the inequities of past socioeconomic policies and the harm done to people and our relationships to these lands and waters.
Thank you so very much, Co-Chair Tim. We're now going to turn to our community agreements. There are 3 slides for these community agreements. I'm going to ask you to read them each silently. And I will ask Corinne to advance the slides. And then on the 3rd slide, I will ask for your agreement. So let's go ahead and start reading our community agreements on slide 1. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If you notice that a conversation is coming close to violating a community agreement, please call your fellow commission members in gently with compassion. If you are called in, please take a moment to consider how you can best participate in the space while still respecting the community agreements and making space for everyone. Do we all commit to following the community agreements for today's meeting and to gently calling in our colleagues and collaborators if needed? Can I see jazz hands or thumbs up or hands up? Thank you so very much. All right, I am now going to pass the meeting over to co-chair Connie so she can take us through the timeline.
Sorry, I'm a little unprepared for this, but
Wrong. I apologize, Debbie. Connie, no, not you. You can
okay,
You're off the hook, Connie.
I could probably fumble through it, so that's
No,
fine. Thank you.
I apologize. My bad. It's Mercury retrograde, so I'm being affected. Co-chair Debbie, pretty
Okay.
please.
All right, I got it. The Police Accountability Commission has split its work into 6 phases. It is now moving into the 5th phase of work, transition plan and broader system. The commission will work until August 31st, 2023, and will present its proposals to the City Council for their consideration and approval. This slide shows the outcome documents for the transition plan and broader system phase based on the agenda and scope approved by the commission. Now that the PAC has developed a rough draft of what the new system will look like, the PAC will, in this phase, develop a transition plan for how to get from here to there. An understanding of how the process of implementing the new system will change or interact with other police oversight systems and levels of government, and also will name the new oversight board and bureau. This slide is the current project plan for the transition plan and broader system phase of the Police Accountability Commission's work. This slide is for members of the public to be able to understand how the commission gets from now through the end of the phase. Following today, here are the upcoming meetings of the PAC. We'd like to highlight the subcommittee on transition plan meets next Monday, May 15th. The subcommittee on broader system meets next Thursday, May 18th. Next Tuesday, May 16th is a PAC informational session in which members of the public can learn about the new system that PAC has envisioned and give feedback that will be used in revisions later on. Okay, today's meeting will begin with our May equity training from Dr. Moses, which will finish one of the 2 books that we've been using, the one called the Racial Healing Handbook. After that, the committee will work through remaining phase of work transition tasks. There will be general public comment, then the public portion of this meeting will end. Following the public meeting, which will end by 8 o'clock, there will be an executive session of the PAC pursuant to ORS 192.662A. And that does it for me. Dr. Moses, you're on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair Debbie. I really appreciate that. So I would like us to take a couple of minutes to close our eyes to center ourselves. Corinne, you can stop sharing for just a second. And we can come together and center ourselves. So I invite you to close your eyes and place your hands in your lap comfortably. I invite you to focus on your breath coming in and out of your nose. What does it feel like to breathe? Is the temperature of the air cooler going in than when it's coming out? Can you feel your whole body accepting the oxygen and the air when it comes into your lungs? See if you can feel that. Gently wiggle your fingers and toes, like discovering fingers and toes. Gently open your eyes, come back into the room, big stretch up. Wake up your lymphatic system. Oh, yes. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so very much. Centering ourselves, giving ourselves a time to breathe, to come into ourselves after a really busy day, a really long day. When we come back to our breath, we're coming back to our center. This is the Energizer Bunny right here. Our breath is the Energizer Bunny. So thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and go to the slide, if you don't mind, Corinne, our first equity slide there. So as said before, we're finishing up the book, the Racial Healing Handbook. And we've really been on a personal journey. The reflection questions are really critical. I discovered a lot about myself when I did the reflection questions about how my identity developed. My parents were white. I don't know who my Black father is. Where did I get my identity from? Who am I now? What has evolved over time? When did I have support and resources? And the big question, so all of these 9 chapters now are ready for us to step into creating community. So I wanted to have a conversation about what is community to the PAC. In the book, it says it's a shared sense of support and fellowship. And I would like to have a conversation about what are the ingredients that you require to feel you are part of a community? What do you need in order to feel that you are part of a community? So Corinne, if you don't mind, stop sharing, then we can have a conversation with all of us in the room together. Who would like to start us off? Yes, Angie.
Hey, good good evening. I feel that the common goal that we all have creates this community. I mean, I haven't even seen 90% of you in real life. I've seen a couple of you in real life. But you know, and so it makes it really hard to have that tangible feeling of, you know, like feeling like you're in the community. But the fact that we all have this passion, and you know, this is a year and a half later, and we're still spending 2 hours on these meetings, and we are okay with that. You know, that's you know, this shared sense of a goal is really helps to create the community for me.
Beautiful, Angie. Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, Commissioner Monica.
I guess I would say more than anything that feeling safe and welcome and is what gives me a sense of community. Feeling understood helps a sense of community. Now, yeah, we've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 hours and all of that stuff, right? If you ask my son, he doesn't think I should still be doing this anymore, but but we're all here. It's a huge commitment. And that ties us all together, right? And I think this whole process has been so respectful, and you know, we've had our differences and we've had our challenges, but never once was I you know, did I feel unsafe or unheard? And I appreciate that a lot.
This is good. Thank you so much. There's not a lot of times when people ask you, what do you need in order to be in community? I have to think about it. So it's a beautiful opportunity to think about it. So, and Monica and Angie have given us some great markers and roadmap to be able to help us move forward in this work, right? We're coming up on the end. We've gone through a lot. More gets to get done. Commissioner Sophia. Commissioner Sophia, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry, my voice isn't doing too well, but I just wanted to add a little bit to the group and saying, you know, what makes you have a shared feeling of community is being valued for who you are and what you know, and knowing that everyone comes with their own unique value, and knowing that and respecting that and honoring that helps me feel like there's a shared community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so I just put into the chat the other question on the slide, which is how do you build a racial justice community? A group of people working together on racial healing and accountability endeavors is the definition from the book. So how is it different from being in community and then working on building a racially just community? Is there a difference? Commissioner Simon.
I mean, I think a lot of us would have opinions on this. So what I have to say is not limiting to just this. There's a lot more to it, but if community is a place of safety and a place to build oneself and or a family's sense of future, then to build a racial justice community is to ensure that those values are protected, and many other values that help community thrive.
I thought it was wonderful where this group started with the values conversation and how you go back and you look at the values every time before you vote on areas of agreement documents. That's really, that is an equity lens that you're using. It is a way of operationalizing the values that this organization has. And so I just want to applaud you for building it in, baking it into the process and going back and looking every single time when you're coming to agreement on really important documents. That's an important part of creating a racially just community. Other thoughts around this? Yes, Catherine, Commissioner Catherine.
Yeah, I just want to say that one thing I've really learned from this group is how powerful rotational leadership can be from an equity standpoint. So much of, I think, white supremacy society is about hierarchies and about who holds the power and who the power is shared with and who it is not shared with. And I think when you build systems that are purposely non-hierarchical, then you go in with I think just different understandings around how power is held and how it is shared. And I guess I have learned this is the first organization I've been involved with that has experimented with the kind of rotational leadership that we've done here. And it's been a really powerful learning experience for me.
I'm going to second that. All the other groups that I'm working on facilitating, I'm like, oh, there's this great, incredible model over here of shared leadership. Yes, I finally get to experience it. It's been wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up. How about Dan and Debbie? How have you evolved over this time? Would love to hear your voice in this conversation. And you don't have to speak from the personal, you can speak from the general or from the community perspective or commenting on the process of where we are.
Right, well, just picking up on where Co-Chair McDowell just left off, I do think that among the commissioners, the rotating leadership model has been very healthy for sharing the burden. But I think that from an institutional standpoint, from a broader standpoint, because we didn't build in a requirement, and I think a lot of people would have not been able to do this anyway, we didn't build in a requirement to have continuity from one set of leaders to another. I think that has taken some of the power away from us as commissioners, unfortunately. But I think we've done a very good job nonetheless.
Thank you, Commissioner Dan. What about you, Debbie? And then I'll come to you, Connie.
So I'll speak to this, the idea of the shared everything. And that's one of the things I really feel has been very supportive, I think, for all of us in this process, is because, the rotating leadership, plus that we have either 2 co-chairs or 3 co-chairs, depending upon whether it's the full commission or subcommittee. It's, we can step in for each other when, when one person has too much going on in their life or whatever, the person who's sharing that leadership can support the person who's exceptionally busy that week or that day, and then they can trade places, a couple of weeks later, as far as who can carry the load. And so I think that's been, just helps make the whole thing feel more equitable and just a much more shared experience than you would have in another leadership setup.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Debbie. Commissioner Connie.
To return to the question of how do you build a racially just or a racially justice based community, I think there's so many reasons to try and seek community, and in this particular situation, we actually aren't here for ourselves. We are here for the greater good and for people. I mean, certainly some of us have been affected by police violence, but it's the amount of work and commitment we've put forth is not this isn't for us. It's not like we're together on a bridge team or like a bowling team. When you have a hobby and you go and seek community, you're seeking that community to enrich yourself and to find like-minded people to collaborate with and create that community. This is that to some degree, but really, if I ask myself, why do I keep showing up week after week? It isn't for me. If it was for me, I probably would have, to be honest, stopped this a long time ago. It's been a big lift and labor ask, I think, time commitment. So it's the showing up of this community is, in my opinion, more focus on a racially just, creating that racially just community, because it's not just for us. If we were, again, collecting stamps or together because we were, rare coin collectors, we'd be in a community that was about our interests and our things. And this seems to be about not us in particular.
Right, something bigger, right? That something bigger keeps us going. Absolutely. Commissioner Connie, thank you so much. And so really wanting to lean into the future, because the Racial Healing Handbook is a process of discovery, as I have said. And it's a discovery of what could be. And that's what this commission is doing. You're revamping the past. You're thinking about what could be. And so what is the alternative to racism within PPB? What would that look like? And how can the board, not the PAC, the board, within its scope and roles, support that vision? What's your hope that they will be able to do? Yes, Commissioner Cherie and then Commissioner Tim.
Well, back to how do you build a racial justice community?
Mhm.
I can remember as a child, I would watch animal TV for hours and hours. I wasn't interested in cartoons. I wasn't interested in game shows, that kind of stuff. I would watch animals. How does this herd of deer, elk, these lions, these anythings get along with each other? How do they behave? What do they do? And I think that I really doubt that one lion bites another lion because one's mane is darker than the other's mane. Although I think scientifically there is something to that. But in me watching animals, how they behaved, it was more about like, I'm the boss because I'm the biggest. I'm the boss because I bring the food home. I'm the boss because I'm the male, that kind of thing. And while humans can take that kind of behavior as well, we don't have to, because women can bring food home too. Women can be the boss if they have to be alone. Men can be the boss if they have to be alone, et cetera, et cetera. So being a human sort of means that we don't have to live under, you know, stressful situations like animals would, in that, you know, their basic needs have to be met every day. And I think that lends to not us being the higher species, but us being, we're more prone sometimes to the emotional in not taking care of each other. But I think that what builds community in humans is helping each other meet our needs like animals do. The kittens would starve if the bigger ones didn't bring home food sometimes. So in the human community, you might be 60 years old, but you're still the kitten. So if others are able to provide you love, support, food, et cetera, that's what I think community is about. That's what I think that the police are missing sometimes in their interactions with the community. And that's something that I focus on in my life to make community happen, is noticing that there's a kitten and seeing their needs are met.
Thank you, Cherie. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. That's really helpful. Commissioner Simon, you have a question.
Yeah, I mean, first off, just to get clarification on the question as I put in the chat, is it that we're asking, or we're answering, like, how can the board support the vision of an alternative to racism in the PPB?
Yes, that is the question.
So I don't know how much we can change, but I know that we're changing something that wasn't working.
Mhm.
And so with that doesn't come any guarantees, but what I'm looking to organize around years down the road, from here, using my past experiences, coming into the present, being here with you guys, learning a lot, networking even within some incredible strength over here, and building that connection and carrying on after this, still working on police accountability issues within immigrant refugee communities, around Muslim communities, how it intersects with Black liberation, is data. So, and I've mentioned this before, data is very important. And if we're able to create a system that is able to provide that data, the sense of accountability, then maybe it's holding a mirror that can't be looked away from by the Portland Police Bureau. And through that, they have to acknowledge someday, they have to acknowledge that not only was their entire construct rooted in racism, but that it presently still is. And through that, there's a sense of accountability that they'll acknowledge, that will make people feel safer with calling and utilizing law enforcement as a service that will serve and protect the communities. So I would say that to answer the question, it really would have to utilize the strength of what the board is able to do, the accountability processes that can grow from that, and the ball would be in PPB's court to acknowledge that in order to start the healing process. And I don't see healing until there's acknowledgement first from them.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Commissioner Casey.
So I think the alternative to racism in the PPB is not racism in the PPB, is expunging the PPB of racism, which I don't know will ever be fully done, but which it at least needs to be taken on seriously as a project, which has not happened up to this point. I think that it has become clear that people who are racist within the PPB are protected and sheltered by their union, by the leadership of the PPB, and by their fellow officers. I think we've particularly seen that only very recently when a number of PPB officers responded very insultingly to diversity training that they were given. And the response from the Bureau was basically, well, we're not going to do anything to discipline any of that because then we're worried that they wouldn't be willing to be open and honest about their opinions if we disciplined them. So I think that this board's role is that nothing other than this board is going to call out that behavior, and nothing other than this board is going to try to discipline it. We have tried to leave it to other entities for a long time. We have given the PPB all the chance in the world to try to self-police and try to recognize and rid themselves of their own racism. And not only have they not succeeded in doing so, I would argue that they have not even made a good faith attempt at any point. And so I think that the way that this board helps to dismantle racism and helps to give us a PPB that is not racist is that it makes it so uncomfortable and so unpleasant to be a racist police officer, which currently is not uncomfortable and not unpleasant. It is incredibly coddled and incredibly protected. But we can make it uncomfortable and unpleasant to the point that we can drive those kinds of officers out of the Bureau, and the officers that will be left and the officers who will want to be part of the Portland Police Bureau at that point will be the ones that we actually want protecting and serving our community. And then we will have a PPB that is not racist.
Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Faith, you're gonna round us out here, and then we're gonna move on. So Faith, right ahead.
Thanks, Dr. Moses. Good evening, guys. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I don't think it's possible. PPB will never not be a racist. Policing will never not be racist. Similar to corporations will never not be taking care of themselves first. And so, you know, I think it's really important to acknowledge that accountability is not a solve, or it is not a solution to solving a system that was designed to oppress people of color. And so I think it's really important that as we talk about, you know, as we transition, as we get close to finishing, that the expectations of the board are a mechanism of accountability within an already broken, on purpose, a structurally broken organization that is inherently racist. And so I think that it's just really important for us to always be holding that and acknowledging it, not in a hopeless way, but in a way that we're level setting expectations for the new board of if the board is successful, they are not solving racism for PPB because that cannot exist. If the board is successful, they have created a system to hold, they are holding police officers accountable and designing policies, but it will never be anti-racist.
Thank you, Commissioner Faith. What a wonderful conversation this evening. I think it's a very important one to have as we're closing out this book and moving into the next one, which is My Grandmother's Hands by Resma Menachem. We'll be getting into this book, and I deeply appreciate your thoughtfulness and your authenticity as we move forward. Thank you so very much. So we're going to go to next steps. Next steps is member curiosities. So may I have a co-chair to take us into member curiosities?
I can do it. Let me just find the page. Okay, member curiosities. It's a brief period of time. On today's agenda where members of the commission can bring items to discuss. This might be questions or follow-ups or an article that you've read that you'd like to share. We're not going to vote on anything during this time. Oh, sorry. Every time you do a slide, it kicks me off my Word document. We're not going to vote on anything during this time. We want to give space to multiple members to share. So please take 1 minute per person at most during this time.
So we'll get to suggestions in a moment, but we'll start by asking if any members have questions about the PAC and its process that they'd like to have answered right now. Yes, Commissioner Debbie, then Commissioner Dan.
So I have noticed in some very recent emails references to the garden plot and pulling some things out. My question is it possible for us to get a copy of the whole garden plot? Because it might be nice to be able to skim through it and see if there are any ideas in there that relate to our next phase. Thanks, that's my question.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that question. Commissioner Dan.
Hi, I forgot to introduce myself before. Dan Handelman, he, him pronouns. So I'm wondering, I've heard through sources that a couple of documents have gone out to the media in the last couple of weeks, and I've only gotten them because I've heard that through the media. And I wonder if it's possible for us as commissioners to get copies of those things or to have them posted on the website and we get links to them just so that everybody can see what news is coming out from the commission. Is that something that can be done?
That's a great question. Any other questions? Yes. Somebody raised their hand, I thought.
Monica?
Hi there. I'm always curious, not curious, but I would like to include more curriculum on mental health and its relationship to the work we're doing right here. The Department of Justice, the agreement with the city, all of that came up as a response to the poor response of mental health crisis in the community. And I would love to focus on that a little bit in these times when we are meeting and talking about personal growth, how we want this work to, not the nitty-gritty of the documents and the processes of the actual work, but I want to bring that in because I feel like we're missing a really key and important part that we need to explore. Nobody should die because they have schizophrenia, right? Nobody should be beat because they are houseless and are in a mental health crisis. And that's what I would like. I like more on this.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Any other curiosities? Staff.
Yeah, thank you. The quick and easy answer to the first two questions from Co-Chair Debbie and Commissioner Dan is yes to both questions, and that's something we've already started working on with the press releases. There was a press release that went out announcing the end of the phase that was worked on with co-chairs. So I think to Commissioner Monica's question, that's something that we can also look at doing through some of the things that staff does. Of course, part of that will also be members bringing it into the conversation where relevant as documents get discussed and revised and all of that as well. And that's on the answer. That portion of the answer is to whatever degree you would like it to be. But certainly insofar as like equity trainings go, that would definitely be something that we're able to incorporate in. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, staff. All right, now we are going to go to the phase of work transition tasks. And I am going to I'm going to pass this over to staff now, and then we will go to public comment.
Great, thank you. So there is one phase of work transition task left to do. It has to do with full commission co-chair selection and approval by the full commission. The full commission has approved 2 co-chairs for the full commission. There need to be 3 under the bylaws. The full commission has also approved both of the 2 necessary co-chairs for the subcommittee on transition plan and both of the 2 co-chairs for the subcommittee on broader system. Commissioner Christian reached out today. He's unable to be here at this meeting, but did reach out before, which is why we sent out an email just before the meeting started to let members know that he was available and interested in being selected as a co-chair, if that is something that the commission would like to approve. At present, there are not any other members of the commission that have indicated their interest, other than, of course, those who already are co-chairs of something. So that is the situation as it is right now. I wanted to make sure that members were aware of that and have the ability to propose any sort of action that you would like to on co-chairs for the full commission.
So the next step is.
Yeah, Commissioner Faith.
I am not seeing everybody. I apologize that I am not calling on people well because I'm not seeing them.
Would you like me to stop sharing so you can see?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. I apologize. Thank you.
Commissioner Faith.
Yeah, I would love to propose that we have Christian as our wonderful 3rd co-chair.
Great. So the way that we've done this for the last 2 meetings has been to ask if there is consensus around doing so and ask members to show so visually at this time.
Is there consensus? Very good. I see consensus.
Thank you very much.
Yay. Chairs. Thank you. We will now turn, staff, is there any other work to do in this area?
Nope. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. We will now turn our attention to public comment. We open public comment on the issues the PAC is discussing, or community members can also tell their story about policing and police accountability. We ask members of the public to keep their comments or questions to 3 minutes in length and to raise their hand in Zoom if they would like to speak. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak? I do not see any. So we will go ahead and move on into our garden plot. At this time, facilitators, co-chairs, and staff will summarize any items already brought up today, but couldn't but didn't fit into today's agenda. We'll recap those items here and use them for developing future agendas. We won't be using this time to add new items not previously mentioned or to discuss any items, but we will use this list to develop future agendas so these items can be addressed. Corinne, do you have any items for the garden plot?
I do not.
Thank you so much, co-chairs. Any items? Nope. Staff.
Nope, thanks.
All right. Okay, so now on to adjournment. As a reminder, you can now submit advanced public comment to the Police Accountability Commission via web form, voicemail, or postal mail. We want to thank you all for attending today's meeting and for your contribution today. Thank you also to our interpreters. And finally, thank you to the members of the community for attending and contributing your thoughts and questions. If you've not already signed up for email updates, please sign up to receive updates from the PAC. The next two meetings of the PAC are subcommittee meetings on the transition plan, which meets at 7 o'clock on Monday, May 15th, and the subcommittee on broader system meets at 7 p.m. on Thursday, May 18th. It's now 8:02 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.